Thank you so much. And I request everyone to please join us, switch on your videos. It would be lovely to see everyone's faces. And thank you so much that you have joined us since morning, listening different lectures. We'll just start in a few seconds. As Arunji mentioned, today the topic given to all the yoga masters is out of syllabus. So namaskar and welcome to our final session of the day. This session is deeply personal to me. It represents something I stumbled upon, not just as an idea, but as an answer to the growing mental chaos which we are experiencing in this age. In our earlier session, we heard how yoga can help us move from the external noise to the inner stillness. But the question that still lingered was how? How do we format a practice to actually bring about the stillness? Last year, after International Yoga Day, I began delving deep into various sciences and research on mental health. It was during a conference that I came across a book that spoke directly to address the issue Nad Yoga by Dr. Sangeeta Laura Byagi and Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani. I hope Yogacharya Dr. Sangeeta will recollect how I met her at the conference. As I began reading it, I realized I wasn't just reading concepts, I was feeling something. Nad Yoga, the yoga of sound, vibration, and resonance, offers not only healing but also a deeply spiritual path. It's not just about music, it's about listening deeply to sound, to silence, and ultimately to self. It made me wonder, in a world so full of noise, what if the answer isn't to fight it, but to tune into a different frequency? And that brings us to a final session, Nada Yoga to Harmonize the Mind by Dr. Sangeeta. Dr. Sangeeta is the Director of Studies and Research at Geetanand Nad Yoga, a renowned voice scholar, vocalist, and voice coach. My very first digital interaction with her was through her recordings available on iTunes Lingashtika. Today, she joins us to share how Nad Yoga can help us reclaim the peace within. With great joy and reverence, I invite Dr. Sangeeta Laura Byagi to take us on this inner journey through Nada Yoga. Welcoming you. Namaskar, Dr. Sangeeta.
Namaste, Shivani ji. Namaste, everyone. It's with great pleasure that I'm here. Thank you for the invitation. I do remember meeting you in a pretty busy venue in New Delhi, and your beautiful smile and your open heart already putting the seed of today a year ago. So it's really makes me very, very happy. I'm also very happy to see here some people that I know in person and who I am sharing sadhana. So thank you all so much for joining us. And yes, I have some slides. I thought that what I would like to share with you are some concepts through slides. Sometimes seeing things on slides can help fix them a little bit, fix our concentration on them. The second half of the session is experiential. So we will begin with some theory and maybe take a few questions and then understand through practice how certain Nada Yoga practices can help us manage the overload of information, and also what is called internet addiction. So unlike Dr. Arun or Arunji, whom I really thank, we all thank again, because he really allowed us to be now in the state of deep relaxation, as so quite a service to humanity. I would like to actually focus specifically on digital electronic media dependency and addiction. I would like to talk about that because it is something that I think is impacting our mental health, the mental health of children, and definitely I can see the mental health of my students, especially at the university, who are between 17 and 21. So that type of population. So with your permission, I'm going to share the slides. Bear with me 1 second as I make them. Okay. So I chose really bright colors so that, it's easier to stay up and awake while looking at yet another slide set. But so the first thing I would like to do is to thank the Guru Parampara of Rishi culture, Ashtanga Yoga, because anything I know, everything I know about yoga in general, and especially Nada Yoga, comes from the Parampara of Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri, Guru Maharaj, and in particular my two direct acharyas and gurus, Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani, Puduvai Kalaimamani, Puduvai Shakti, Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani, and Puduvai Kalaimamani, Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani. The teachings of this parampara, particularly the ones on Nad Yoga and Tantra, Yantra, and Mantra, come from the lineage of the Bhrigu Rishi, which in our parampara comes from a long lineage, several generations, through the teachings of the father of Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani ji, Swami Gitananda Giri Guru Maharaj, and his guru, Swami Kanakananda Bhrigu. So I call them, and Shivani, if it's okay for you, I would like to invoke the Guru Gayatri to begin.
Yes, please.
Om Tatparampariyaya Vidmahi Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruhu Prachodayate. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So, what do we mean by Nada Yoga? So often in the West, Nada Yoga is translated as the yoga of sound, and that is partially correct. But Nad is a term it's a sound, before being a term, is a sound that refers to the vibratory essence of everything that exists, especially in our experience as humans with our nervous system, living in an electromagnetic spectrum of light and electricity. So what is called by scientists today the quantum field of existence. So that quantum field of existence, we know it's particles and waves. So there's movement, even though we cannot perceive it. So in the same way, we cannot perceive the sound of nada, just like we cannot perceive the subatomic quality of the table or of this computer. But we know through not only science, but we know through yoga that that is a reality. We know that we are very expansive inside. We know that we can visualize not imaginary worlds, but truly dimensions, just because of the way we feel, just like Arunji was mentioning before, the way we felt in that meditation, in that contemplation was so expansive. It went definitely beyond the physical body. So in the same way, nada is the vibration of that, of all that is. And so to say sound, yes, as long as we realize that sound is not just what we perceive with our senses, but something greater. So what are we talking about then? We're talking about inner clairaudience. This is what Swami Gitananda taught us. Clairaudience, or the capacity to listen without limit. Okay, because the sound that we hear is struck sound, is a sound that has a beginning and the end. But with nada, we are in the universe of unstruck sound, of the anahata nada. This type of sound vibration, this type of vibratory essence does express itself in the form of Vaikari Bhak, in the sense that we can now talk about it, we can invoke the mantras, we can invoke a bhajan, and so on. But the goal, if there ever should be a goal, because just today I was listening to another wonderful speaker interviewed by our Guruji, Dr. Nandaji, Indu Aurora, and she was speaking about, that the goal of yoga is yoga. Okay, there's no goal of yoga as in yoga for this and yoga for that. Those are the benefits, the added benefits. But if there should be any goal in life, it's to live life fully in a yogic path, which is, adhering to the best capacity we have to the yamas and the niyamas and so on. So back to this vibratory flow, when we practice the practices that we will do in the second part of the session, the goal is not to be perfect at them. It's not to have the best mantra, the best repetition, the best, jatis, and yes, those are important and they should be studied in the cultural appreciation and in the cultural appropriate way, for sure. At the same time, as Ammaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani teaches us, the sound of yoga is silence. Okay, so that's where we want to, when we talk about harmonizing the mind with Nad Yoga, which is the title of this small intervention, is that the harmonization happens through dissonance. If there wasn't dissonance, there wouldn't be a need for harmony. Dissonance is part of life, or it wouldn't be there. So there are in nature, we never speak of dissonance in nature. That's a very interesting thing. Like when you go to nature, there are really no dissonant sound. Everything is harmonious. Something can be loud, something can be scary, yes, but we don't talk of dissonance. Only humans have started to label things as dissonant. Why? Because we like pleasure. Humans like comfort and we like pleasure because there's a process in our brain, the dopamine release, which we'll talk about because it's important when speaking about technology and the digital age. The dopamine release makes us feel good. Okay, so we do not tolerate much what is dissonant. That's why we created a word for it. So it's a little bit, it's one of those, one of those nice kleshas, no? The raga and the dvesha. We just want the pleasure. And the beautiful sutra, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam, avoid the uncomfortable before it happens, the unpleasant, the dukkha. So we as humans have difficulty sustaining attention in discomfort. We're really losing the capacity to do that. We are becoming more sedentary in general. It's a big generalization, but generally we're becoming more sedentary. Artificial intelligence is helping us with a lot of tasks. We don't really have to memorize as much as before. Shivaniji, if you think about it, the Vedas being passed down and the sutras orally, and we can barely maybe remember one or two verses or sutras. So imagine how much we have lost in terms of skill. So dissonance is part of life. Dissonance is what we experience with discomfort. But the discomfort also has in its own self a resolution, which we call harmony. Harmony is balance. So harmony, just like health, is a dynamic state. Harmony, even in music, is a dynamic state. Harmony in life is a dynamic state. So harmonizing the mind means that there's no fix. We're not going to be able to practice, like you get a pill and so you get a mantra in Nad Yoga, okay? It's just a dynamic state of testing where the vibratory flow is taking us, what kind of thoughts we have, which then give rise to particular emotions, life experiences, physical states, which then will create certain types of cravings. The quality of our thoughts will create different types of cravings. And so by modifying then the lifestyles, the diet, the lifestyle, taking, as Arunji was saying, 1 hour rather than, worrying in that hour, all of that is going to create this harmonious, dynamic state of health, which we call NAD. So NAD yoga is both the instrument and it's both the vehicle and the location where we're trying to reach. So it's all that is. But why is this important in relationship to our topic, and especially in relationship to phones and televisions and computers and so on, is that it teaches us how to breathe. So we'll see this, how these step by step, are getting not lost completely, but definitely modified by our dependency to technology. For example, breathing, the first one here, it says how to breathe. Why? Because I don't know if you've noticed, probably you have in this Sangha, but as you go out and teach others, especially the youth, you can make them aware of the fact that when we scroll, we generally hold our breath. Okay, so if you're scrolling on social media, most of the times you're holding your breath. Okay, so that's obviously going to deplete the brain of oxygen and other nutrients, and then the whole body, obviously. The heart is going to suffer, and it's going to be more likely to have a higher heart rate when you're holding your breath for extended periods of time. Okay, so with Nad Yoga, we begin like all yoga practices. So Nad Yoga is not different than yoga. It's just focusing on one aspect. It's not a different thing. So I'm going to be repeating many concepts we already know in the Sangha. But how to breathe. So first of all, if we are able to breathe properly when we are on the computer, even like now that you're listening to me, just take a deep breath. Notice what's happening to your breath pattern when you are with a digital tool in your hands or in front of you. Then in Nad Yoga, we learn how to sit up. We have to sit up because most of the practices of Nad Yoga are from the floor. Unlike, let's say, a practice of Hatha Yoga, which has more perhaps movement or kriyas. Many of the practices in Nad Yoga are from a sitting position, whether it's Vajrasana or Padmasana, Sukhasana. We sit up a lot. Okay, so sitting up requires all of the other practices, because if you're not strong, supple, at ease, it's going to be difficult to sit up. Now, everybody can practice Nad Yoga, even if you cannot sit up, even if you cannot, sit at all, even from a bed. I'm not saying that this is a requirement. But I'm just saying that in general, sitting up is getting lost. In fact, in English, we say sit down all the way, right? But sitting up when holding a phone or when looking at a computer is getting lost, because we are a lot on the computer. Then we start to go down on the table like this, or maybe you are on the couch, and crossing your legs. And so there's something about sitting up when dealing with technology that also helps, when we are finding that we have addictive behaviors towards it. Okay, very important. And then we learn to focus the mind in a gentle way. Okay, so we'll see in the next slide how technology is working against that a little bit. Then, now the yoga principles, just like all yoga principles, remind us that we don't need to grasp, achieve, shop, demonstrate, prove to be worthy of love. We don't need it. We don't need any of this. What we need is to love ourselves. Okay, and this is, not in a cheesy way, in a really true way. And I think, again, like the practice we shared earlier, where that feeling of relaxation, that's a form of loving the self. That's what I mean by that. So free from these tendencies to be outside of us, which is what digital media wants us also to believe, that we need to be outside, we need to be interacting, we need to be texting, we need to be answering, all of these things. If we don't have that push or the pull, from the outside, it is easier to practice these forms of pratyahara or withdrawing of the senses. Okay, so we will, again, as I said, practice all of this in a row in the practice of this class. So what is also great about Nad Yoga is that the teachings are timeless. They are ancient. They're really ancient and at the same time contemporary because they go beyond the limitations, excuse me, there's a typo here, the limitations of time and culture. So that's also great. Plus, truly, we don't need much. We just need our body, the capacity to breathe, the capacity to listen. We don't even need the capacity to move much. If you can breathe, that's your form of Nad Yoga. That's the sound of your breath. Okay? So let's see now why we decided to bring these Nad Yoga practices in this topic. So what are some of the challenges of a digital world? So it is true that our eminent speaker before spoke about digital age or the digital tools can mean anything. It's very true because digital comes from digit, from a digit, so from the numbers. So what is meant by that is the digits of the 0-1 codes of the computer. That's when we started using it. But because we know that in yoga, one of the sciences of yoga is yantra, and yantra is based on bijank, or digits of numbers, then the digital tool, yantra, could be a digital tool, okay? So, however, I think in my presentation, what is important to me is to focus on the digital tools that we call electric devices, like the phone, like, all of these iPads, computers, smartphones, smart TVs, smart watches, and artificial intelligence. So they entertain destruction. Okay, so these devices are very, very helpful. I think Zoom truly saved many of us during the pandemic. And here we are today. I don't even know if truly I could have come to New Delhi and meet you, Shivani, if it wasn't for Zoom and Dr. Ananda Ji and the Sangha and all of that. So yes, absolutely. I'm on the computer now. I'm really fond of my computer. I'm really fond of my phone. And I do really enjoy my social media pages. So there's no demonic, stress placed on those. However, how are they designed? They are designed to distract us. Okay, and we'll see why. There's a term called digital capitalism, which we'll talk about in a moment. So they are designed through advertisement to distract us and to purchase things. Okay, we know, all right? However, what is the effect that has on us? We become confused with that pole of distraction. So we become distracted even more than our nature. Our nature is already to be distracted, chitta vritti. But with the prolonged use, so we're talking about 3 or more hours a day. 3 or more hours a day. Within 3 hours, it seems that we can manage 3 hours a day. But beyond 3 hours, and you'll be surprised if you think, oh no, I'm just using it for maybe an hour a day. Just look on your phone how long you are on your phone, and it'll tell you sometimes it's a staggering 7, 8, 9 hours. For teenagers, it can go up to 12. Students in my university go up to 12, which means that, of course, not, that they are spending the night also on them, okay? So when we are absorbed in something that is distractive, not destructive with an I, then we develop a habit of being incapable of holding our attention. Because whatever we focus on, we become. That's it. I mean, whatever we eat, we become. Whatever we focus on, we become. Hence the science and art of mantra, of prayer, of the rosary. We know. But we don't think, okay, so if I am focusing on something that is built to be distractive, I will be distractive. No wonder. Okay? And then also we get information overload, which, creates a lot of stress, as we know. Also, we have sensory deprivation. Okay, because one, we are not aware of how we breathe first, so we're not nourished. Second one, yes, we use our eyes, but the digital light, the blue light, we know has some effects. And sound, digital sound also, especially if using earphones, can be destructive. And touch, you say, oh, well, we're using touch, but we're always using touch in the surface of the screen. So it's not truly an intelligent touch, and it's not reciprocal. There's no warmth on the other side. Okay, so it's very particular, the type of sensory deprivation that we have with prolonged exposure. All the way to creating an addiction. So this addiction, it's interesting that the word is internet addiction, which is IA, which is the opposite of AI. I think it's interesting. But what happens when someone is addicted to the internet in general? People lose track of time, people lose track of money, their disrupted sleep and eating habits, especially compulsive eating. So we'll talk also briefly about the relationship. There start to be some research now that is interesting between research on the relationship between sugar addiction and internet addiction, both stimulating the dopamine release, obviously, so it makes sense. But there's a lot of dependency that TV series, the news, and other things create that make us want to eat. So very, very, and it's designed, sorry to say, it's designed to be that way. So you just have to be a little mindful. Because of all of this, we see staggering, rising numbers of anxiety, panic attacks, and depression, particularly in younger generations. Okay, so continue on. So why addiction? Okay, so technology use, particularly smartphones, exhibit addiction-like patterns similar to sugar addiction, which include craving, compulsive behavior, and withdrawal symptoms. So I have some statistics also to show this, okay? And this, it's just a sample, one from the US. Why the US? Because we'll see, sorry, I'm rushing, because I'm very passionate about this, because I feel the effect on myself and on my students very clearly, okay? So both sugar and technology activate the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and creating a cycle of craving and consumption. As you probably know, but if you don't, dopamine is a neurotransmitter created in our brain. It plays a role as a reward center and in many body functions, including memory, movement, motivation, mood, attention, and more. So when we think about smartphones also, I was thinking, why is it increasingly more and more and more? And I was like, oh my God, the relationship between the tools and our body is becoming closer and closer. Like we started having, like my parents, who were young adults after World War II here in Italy, there was one TV per neighborhood. In the 50s here in Italy. So everybody would gather, and it was a social activity, and everybody would comment and laugh together. So the TV was over there in somebody's, little coffee shop down the street, everybody would go. Then we started to have one TV or one radio per household, but still it was a little bit further away. Then we started to have digital media like CD players and other things that we then started to bring in our backpacks and in our, pockets or whatever. And then we started to have earphones. So all of a sudden there's touch. The device is no longer in the living room, it's on my body. And now we are starting to see wearable smart devices. So you can wear your watch, therefore you can wear your phone, and then goggles, Google has these goggles or eyeglasses, and you can, see basically through the glasses. So the next plan, which, this is not a conspiracy theory, this is actually the plan, is to have microchips. Okay, so it's gonna become This is the other thing I wanted to maybe share with you, and you can then, we'll open it up before the practice to discuss together as a Sangha, because I don't have the answers. I'm just proposing some reflections here, is that, the proximity and actually the embodiment of the smart devices will make a shift, because now we talk about addiction because we still see the tools as something outside of us. This is different than drugs, for example. Why? Because drugs, you have the alcohol, you have the thing, you consume it, it becomes you. But then it still is ever going to be outside of you. You will still always have to get it in. But with microchips, all of a sudden, you wake up in the morning and you're it. Okay, so I am also wondering if what we call addiction today will just become normal tomorrow. Okay, so it's just something we can think about. Like the children that are coming up now, constantly looking at their devices, we cannot talk about an addiction for them because they don't know another life. They don't have that. In our generation, we do. I grew up without a phone. I got my first phone when I was, 28. The first computer. I went through university and a PhD almost without a computer. I just did it all by hand. It's just, okay. So let's think about this and then we can open it up. Now, a couple of statistics, and then we come back to Nad Yoga and how Nad Yoga can help us, support us. So 56% of the world's population is active on social media. We know that, more or less, right? It's not a big surprise. However, social media addiction. So what does social media addiction mean? Again, is that if you're not on it, you have withdrawal symptoms, just like with drugs. You start to sweat, you have panic attacks, you're very restless. You can exhibit aggressive behaviors. Okay, so there are detox clinics in Italy already. Social media detox clinics we already have. There's one near here. Okay, so very interesting. So globally, social media usage is expected to reach 6 billion users. Now here's something interesting. Meta's platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp remain dominant. Okay, so when we are using social media, we're also choosing to sponsor specific companies that have specific agendas. Because we're using them, we're users. We're users, like it's the same term we use for drug addicts, that they're users. Okay, so it's interesting. You just read through the lines, okay? So it's called digital capitalism, obviously, because Meta dominates. So it's a capitalistic enterprise, this social media stuff, okay? So according to research from the University of Michigan, and I have to say, it's true that Meta is from the US, therefore, the best research is also mostly from the US because they are in the thick of it. But according to research from the University of Michigan, 210 million people worldwide suffer already from social media addiction and the internet. That's a lot. Okay. So, sorry, this is a very packed slide. You don't have to read it. You can just listen to me. I'll summarize it. And then I'll share these slides with Shivani G, who can kindly share them with the participants, okay? So you can go back and read it. But what you can see at a first glance, and all of these are in the resources at the end. So you can go ahead, look at the research, read it for yourself, and so on. So the younger generation is self-reporting. This is the statistics of people who self-report, not a parent who's saying, oh, my child is addicted. No, actually people self-reporting having withdrawal symptoms. So the youngest do have more, and the oldest less, because we were brought up in a different time. Okay, so this is where I think there's going to be a breaking point I'm just gonna pay attention and just be mindful of it. But I am wondering whether in younger generations we'll be able to take, unless they are born in the countryside or they're born in a yogic family. But if people are just simply born in a family where they're given a device from when they're toddlers, I'm wondering if there's a parallel life for them. I don't know what that's going to look like. So it's going to be interesting to observe that. So for teenagers, this is 2025 statistics, so it's this year, okay? So teenagers 13 to 17, they feel that they are excluded when using social media, not when not using social media. When not using social media, they have withdrawal symptoms. But even when they are in social media, they feel excluded. So all of the fear of missing out, all of the anxieties, there's so much there. So 43% felt bad about themselves and 35% reported cyberbullying, okay, which is a whole topic in itself too. So this is a bit gloomy, okay? So this is just a couple more slides and then we'll move on to some, yogic bhavana. So 7 in 10 teens who use social media for over 5 hours are at higher risks of committing suicide, okay? And then for gender, the higher is, well, it says women here, but it's actually girls, teenagers, and women. It's just all age groups. So girls are more, or women are more prone to have addiction from internet and electronic devices in general. Now, looking at India has the largest number of Facebook users globally. This is also 2025. But what's really interesting is that it dominates WhatsApp with 535 million active users. And I know because most of my chats are from India, from Indian Sanghas. It's true, Italians are still like, the chats, I don't know. But anyways, a little bit of a joke there, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's like 800 million by the end of 2025. Sending billions of messages. Okay, so as we said before, advertising is there. It's a huge business, so obviously it works. China leads the sector in advertising through social media. So that's interesting. And India's young demographic, 25% under 15 years and 17% aged 10-19, is increasingly vulnerable to social media's adverse effects. And as we have said before, and we know, okay, some of the issues are depression, anxiety. Cyberbullying is very rampant. It's very bad. In Europe, it's really awful statistics. Privacy risks and also sleep disorder and so on. So then let's come back, now that we know this and we're aware of it. So how do we then engage with these practices of Nada Yoga? But particularly, how can we share them with the most vulnerable population, which is children and teenagers, all the way up to 20, 25. And then this is a generalization. Maybe your children are like that because you are here, but there's numbers. The numbers are huge. Okay, so how do we do? So when we talk about the mind and harmonizing the mind, we also know from yoga that there are many layers of the mind. There's the chitta, the manas, the buddhi, the ahamkara. So let's begin with the lower level, which is the most vulnerable to social media addiction, which is the chitta. The chitta is the subconscious thought which make you move instinctively and also habitually, like the triggers that you get and the reactions that you have. Now that type of the mind, the rational lower mind, is absolutely vulnerable to addiction. So the manas and the buddhi, which represent your conscious mind, your yogic capacity to be aware. And then, the buddhi is the intuitive, higher mind. These are less touched by the dependency of the addiction to technology. But the chitta is in its own environment because it's feeding on its own nature. And I think this has been designed exactly for that. Chitta vritti. The chitta vritti is whirlpools of scrolling from one idea to the other. Then I think about this, then I want this, then I want pleasure, I don't want pain. Like this is what digital media and social media look like. It's exactly, if you want to know what chitta vritti is, you can just scroll on Instagram. That's it. That's a wonderful representation of the chitta vritti. Okay, so yoga is able to slow us down. So the first step is to slow us down because the speed of artificial intelligence and the media is increasingly higher and higher. And people are on their phones and computers longer and longer. So the first step is slow down. Okay, so Nad Yoga helps us to slow down. We will see. In fact, I need to check the time. Okay. So we're going to slow down in the practice. We're going to connect with our breath, decide what we're going to do with our body, and start to bring the senses back in. It's impossible to slow down if we're not able to bring the senses back in. Because outside, especially on the media, it's fast and consuming. So we're going to bring the awareness of the breath back inside, and we're going to listen to its sound. We're going to listen to the sound of the breath. And I'm going to skip a couple here. I'm going to show you what we're going to do because the time, I'm just aware of the time. So, and I do want us to practice. So what we're going to do, the 4 practices we're going to do next, and then I'll stop sharing so I can see you better also, are 4. Okay, so these 4 practices are based on a teaching by Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri, Guru Maharaj, called 4 levels of relaxation. And we're going to breathe together, simple in and out through the nostrils. I'm going to guide you through the capacity that we have as humans to regain control of our senses, to rein them in again. So not to have the need to grasp outside of us. Sound starts with the awareness of the breath, of the sound of the breath. Then we'll continue becoming aware of the sound of the environment. And then I'm going to invite us to practice together 9 rounds of the Pranava Om. Om together. And just then observe what's happening. Okay, so that's the plan. When it comes to these, the Nasarga Mukha Bhastrika and the release, we'll just do them at the beginning. Okay, I'm going to invert because of time. When we have more time, we can do them in this order, but for today, we'll just do them here. When you receive the slides, you can go back here and you can read why these are designed in this way. But it's not necessarily useful for now, okay? So in the slides also, I put some tips. For example, if you need an alarm clock in the morning, get a digital clock. Do not use your phone. This will not make you want to scroll right away as soon as you wake up. When using your computer, make it a point to take short breaks, sit up, hydrate. Anyway, I'll just put some tips here that you can read in the slides later, okay? And then at the end, there are some resources where I took the statistics, all here, the books on Nad Yoga where you find these practices, and then at the end, some ways to stay in touch, okay? So how are we doing, Shivani? Do we have maybe 5-10 minutes for the practice?
We have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Oh, let's say that we may want to leave 5 to 7 minutes for questions, or not just even questions, just for the Sangha to share and say,
Yes.
oh, this is my experience with the phone, or this, I have a son, I have a daughter, I can see this happening in them. You know, it would be very nice to know what people's experience is in the Sangha for me. So yeah, so let's say 10 minutes. I'm gonna do my best. I'm actually gonna put a timer because as we know in our Sangha, yeah, we tend to go a little bit beyond the time. Okay, perfect. So let's sit up. And we're gonna do this by sitting. So you can sit up and we're gonna start shaking our hands. Let's take a deep breath. Shaking of the hands is wonderful, especially if you're on the phone a lot, because the fingers really just type in the same way for hours and hours. So shake in different ways and adapt. There shouldn't be pain. This is just to warm up. Then roll. Nice breaths. Yawn. Oxygenate your brain. Good. A few more times. Nice. And then make the circle a little wider, clockwise, counterclockwise. Nice deep breaths. And then shake all around. You can shake left, right, front and back. Shake around your jaw, around your eyes. Shake, shake, shake. Then inhale and release with a whoosh. We'll do this 2 more times. Let's go. Breathe, inhale. One more. Under your feet, under your armpits, wherever you hold tension especially. Inhale and exhale. Very nice. We're going to roll our head gently and slowly a few times. Remain aware of your breath. Inhale as you lift your head. Exhale as you lower your head. Release your jaw and your lips. And then in the opposite direction. Now slowly, as we become more in touch with the body, we can start a conversation with our own self to invite us to say yes to taking enough time to reconnect throughout the day. It's a promise, no more than promise, it's a commitment, let's say, that we must take every day. All right, like release, come back to the center, shake your head. Now shake your head with your lips parted, so you're not holding tension. Very nice. And now, right arm straight ahead in front of you. The other arm is stretching it to stretch the back of the heart. Inhale and exhale through the back. Metaphorically, as you inhale and exhale in your diaphragm, open the back of your heart. And relax gently. Everything is smooth and gentle. Opposite side. Maintain a steady breath. Very nice. And now we're going to go side to side with your eyes relaxed, your lips relaxed. Without forcing, just allowing the body to stretch. Come back to the center and then inhaling, looking right. Exhaling, looking left. Very nice. Come back to the center. If you have some water, sip some water. In the tips, I put to have always water wherever you're working, especially if you're planning to be on the digital media for a while. Water is very essential. And get a sip of that. And we're going to gently close your eyes. And we will bring together two practices, the Sukha Pranayama and Shabda Pratyahara. So we're going to be here for maybe 3 minutes. Okay? So make yourself comfortable. Find a way where you can sit up. Or if you need to lay down or be reclining, make sure that to the best of your capacity you can maintain a posture that is elongated and free of contraction as best as you can. We're going to start inhaling and exhaling through the nostrils, noticing which nostril is dominant. Maybe you're inhaling more with the right or the left, or maybe both equally. This will let you understand which side of your energy, which aspect of your energy is more dominant, the loma, the viloma, the more active or the more receptive. Connect to the sound of the heart. This truly is the Anahatanad. The sound of your heart is the sound of all that is. And even despite the fact that when we leave the body, the heart, the anatomical heart will stop beating, its subtle psychic counterpart will keep the rhythm. Connect with the heart, with the sound of the heart, and then begin to listen to the sound of the breath. It's a very, very subtle sensation. We will breathe together on counts of 6 through the nostrils as best as you can, breathing out to begin. Breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Continue breathing. You can stretch your breath, make it longer or make it shorter, but keep it even. And notice on the capacity that we have to keep our mind steady on the breath, regulate our emotions, withdraw the senses in, so give our eyes and our hands, give our ears and our taste a moment to relax. In this way, we're going to open up to the sounds in the room. You will hear sounds outside of the windows here. There's a celebration here just on the street. So there are people talking, cars. Perhaps you have your own sounds in your own space. And we're going to relax in receiving the sounds of the environment, outer and inner. Rest in the awareness. Observe the mind. Bring your inner gaze in the area of the Brumadhya Bindu. You can place your eyes under the eyelids, between the brows. And you can connect to this great flow of energy that we know is there from science, but even before, from our ancient rishis. This flow that is keeping us alive and aligned. The Sushumna Nadi that corresponds in our physical body to our spine, in our intention to attune to this great mantra of the breath, the Soham mantra, the inhalation and the exhalation. Because the mind is so busy and so distracted by advertisement of all types, the promises of pleasure everywhere, that are not always good for us. So with that, we want to create a sound that will override the vritti that make us feel pulled to the outside to grasp pleasure of any type. We bring the reins of that wild horse of pleasure back in. And the wild horse, just like all horses, is very aware of our emotional sphere. So we calm the emotions through the breath, and we are going to calm the mind by overriding the vrittis with the sound of Om. So the Om, the vibratory essence of this sound is guttural, palatal, nasal, and cerebral retroflex. Feel all of the layers and all of the levels of vibratory essence that are going to make your body move and override the vritti. In a repetition of 9 rounds, it's a practice we can share now. Okay, exhale to begin. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. We'll do 2 more at a very, very low volume. And we'll do 2 more. Let's do 2 more as an ajapa japa or silently. And now simply observe. Observe yourself. And then bring your hands together and wrap them. Place the warm palms over of your hands over your eyes. Open your eyes here in this dark velvety space. Stretch your eyes all the way up and down, left and right. And look in a clockwise direction a few times, slowly. And counterclockwise. And then slowly blink, 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 and gently move your hands as you're blinking. And bring your hands in Namaskaram. So thank you so much. This is a shortened practice that we can elongate, make it longer. But it's a 15-minute practice that, if we can do once a day, twice a day, even shorter. It can be shorter once you have, learned, but it's better if it's at least 15 minutes. So I think we're just right on time. So I don't know, just like the time is now, but I don't know. There's maybe a time for one question perhaps, or a
Yeah,
comment.
we can take a couple of questions. I'm sure there must be a lot of experiences for the participants to share.
Yeah, we can begin on how you feel or what you thought about some of the topic, anything you like. Yes, Rosanna.
Okay, sorry. I just want to share something I do sometimes when I feel too, attacked by PC and phones. I just sometimes I just pick the PC, pick my mobile phone and put it into the balcony and just close it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes during the night, I just, when I go to sleep, I just close everything outside. It's a safe balcony, but because it's too easy to get this stuff, So if we place, it kind of worked for me, because if you place in another place, okay, and then you have to go, by the way you decide and the way you go, you may be able to say, okay, am I really doing this? Or I can, I can stop myself. I can prevent of kind of automatic movement, as you brilliantly told us. I mean, it's an addiction. So I'm trying to, something I want to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, it's the same, when you, first of all, it's not like junk food because we need the tool. So it's not like we can not use them, right? So with an addiction, it's a bit of a problem because with something you're addicted to, let's say sugar or other, refined, sugar, you just don't put it in your house, right? You don't buy it and you don't have it. But with the tools, it's true, you have them. So yes, it's very useful to put them somewhere else. So, if we don't have a balcony, or if we don't have a place, or if it's dangerous to leave them outside because they'll be stolen or something, at least not have them before going to bed or when waking up in the morning. That's one big step that we can do at least, because if you use your phone to wake up with an alarm clock, you know what's going to happen next. So thank you, Rosanna. Thank you for being here. Bridget?
Namaste, Sangeeta ji. So lovely to see you. And thank you for this sharing. It has reminded me, we're talking about the tools that, these digital tools are necessary to a degree in this world at the minute. But the tool, and you know how much I love your voice. You really highlighted, and I think you highlight with how you use your voice to bring the essence of NAD to us, and ultimately lead us on that journey. Even the speed, as you start with speed, you slow down, you elongated your words, they become more tuned into even the sounds of the pranava. And it's beautiful. And I think that we need to, as teachers, even as human beings on the planet, to use our voice to encourage people to get into that space. So thank you for that reminder, Sangeeta.
Thank you for reminding me to remind everyone that yes, it's true, the vibration of the voice in the mantras, especially the pranava om, a nirguna mantra. So there's, it's it creates this vibration that science shows, right? The science shows that a prolonged japa, and Patanjali said it also, taught us also, but science also says, the prolonged japa will, how does it say Patanjali? So he says with practice, tadartha bhavanam, with practice and with devotion. So if we remember, thank you actually Bridget, if we remember that this voice can help us heal, it's like the medicine that Arunji was speaking about before. We have this medicine, and we can use it through the vibration of the voice. We can overcome the addiction. It's true. Yeah. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Yeah. Dr. Sangeeta, excellent lecture, excellent session, and very good experience. But how long this exercise which you took us through, how long we should do per day?
I think if you start with, so if you have a mantra sadhana that you practice already, maybe you have, or prayers that you already practice, that's already the sadhana. That's enough in a sense, right? If you have this 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning or wherever, whenever you have, that you sit there with a mala or with the rosary and you pray, that is already the practice of Nat Yoga. That's it, right? However, if you want to elongate that, the practice of listening to the heart and listening to the breath and listening to the environment can take any time from 5 to 10 minutes and more. The longer the better, because the longer is more challenging to keep the focus. So if you can do a little longer, you'll meet right away your yield, you'll meet right away the limit of your capacity to sustain the length of the practice. Because when you move, it's a little bit easier, but when you sit and listen, it's just, the thoughts really start to come up. So you come back to the sound of the heart, you come back, and then you'll know what is healthy for you. There's no need to feel irritated. If it starts to be irritated and then the rajasic nature comes up, then we have defeated the purpose. Because, we're trying to get to a sattvic state where there's no addiction. So if you're getting into more of the rajasic, tamasic, then it's defeating the purpose. So a little bit of, just a little bit of, I would say that if you can do a couple of minutes of breath, a couple of minutes of listening, and then, if you can do some asana practice before, some stretching, and if it's overall is a 20-minute practice. Generally, this is designed to be a 20 minutes to 30-minute practice with more jatis that include some asana, but it can be an hour or two. There's no side effect, it's just you're going to be so calm that, people may not recognize you depending on...
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And something else I wanted to say that touches on what you brought up, Arjunji and Rossanaji also, is social responsibility. I think if we can let people we love know that if we don't reply to them right away, it's not the end of the world, because there's this thing of this guilt. I don't know if you know, especially families, the guilt. Why aren't you answering the phone? Why aren't you picking up the phone? Why didn't you get back to me right away? That if we can let our community know step by step that when we don't reply, we're fine, that we're not in danger. And then it's going to be really possible to put the phone outside. Otherwise, there's a little bit of that stress. So that's a big one also, I think, isn't it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste, Sangeeta ji. It was an excellent session. I loved it. But I have a question that you asked us to recite Om for 9 times. Why not 8 and 10?
Ah, what a beautiful question, Niluji. So every tradition has its own number of darshans. I have found that different yoga paramparas have different numbers. So yes, if your tradition is doing, a specific number, do by all means follow your parampara. The reason for the 9 in Gitananda Yoga is that there is a study of yantra, or the sacred numbers, the science of numbers and geometry. And it's based on the power of the creative power of number 3 and its multiples. So we often have practices repeated 3 times, or 6 or 9, or multiples of 9. Because it's a blend of creativity and also the capacity to start a cycle and complete a cycle within one practice. So if we do 9, then we have 3 times 3 in it. I mean, it's a numerical study of yantra that our parampara applies to everything we do. So thank you for that question.
Do we have any more questions? No. Thank you so much, Sangeeta ji, for taking us through to a situation which is happening now, comparing technology and sugar and the release of dopamine, and then taking us through Nada Yoga, and then giving us a short experience practice. It was a beautiful session, and giving us tips about how to stay away from our mobile or digital device. Because I personally, I'm fond of technology. How I started this entire event, I said that I'm fond of technology, and that's why this Indian homegrown brand is able to reach out to so many countries. But also, this comes with a lot of responsibilities, that in this journey I don't burn myself. And there in your conference, I actually learned about this entire concept of Nada Yoga and got a chance to practice as well. So I'm again grateful that you shared the entire practice again with us through this platform. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our attendees today who were attending since morning, who were there with us since morning, the first lecture, and stayed with us till this last lecture. Thank you so much, everyone. And also, there is now Zen mode in your mobile phone as well. So, where you can actually come into an airplane mode so that nobody contacts you and you do not get an access to social media. So, therefore, this might help you. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And thank you so much for this last session. It was beautiful.
Thank you, Shivani, for all the work you're doing and for organizing this and for making it accessible and free of charge to the world, really. So thank you for offering the Sangha and everything you do, really. Thank you so much from us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta. But I always say Haloma Yoga exists because of incredible yoga masters of India and incredible trust we get from the community. Thank you so much for building us. Thank you. We are ending the session.